Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. So this week I wanted to have another Turbo Rails stimulus tutorial up for you guys, but unfortunately I ran into some technical difficulties and I wasn't able to get it out this week. So instead, I'm going to do another talking video where I talk about a programming topic relevant to the industry. And in this video, working on the Hotwire framework, it made me think about the difficulty it takes in learning a new programming language. Well, this endeavor isn't quite picking up like a whole new programming language. It is another framework, and learning a new framework does carry its own set of challenges, just like learning a new programming language. So I thought what would be a good topic for this video is why it's difficult to master multiple programming languages at the same time. So sometimes, actually back when I was job searching, I would occasionally run across postings talking about like the unicorn developer, or what companies like to call the polyglot developer, which is somebody who could switch between programming languages very easily and do multiple programming languages. And along with polyglot, that might also kind of overlap with what a lot of companies call the full stack developer. Well, my opinion is that being full stack is kind of difficult in 2021 because the web application world has so much specialization in it now, especially when you're talking about back-end server-side programming versus the front-end running in the web browser sort of stuff going on. Most applications, they are using frameworks that are so complex and specialized now that just to get all the work done, it takes the expertise of multiple developers. Oh, by the way, the thing I'm drinking today is called a Boulevardier. It's consisting of equal parts of bourbon, vermouth, and Campari. And the reason I'm having a Boulevardier today is because I got to 500 subscribers on my channel. So, if you like Boulevardiers and you like programming, maybe you should hit the like button on this video and subscribe my channel so that you could join me on the journey to 1,000 subscribers. And by the way, why don't you tell me in the comments what your favorite drink is after a long day of programming? Oh yeah, full stack developers. So it's really difficult now to specialize in, a server-side technology like Ruby on Rails or Python Django or, PHP.NET, Java, whatever your specialty is, and also do one of the popular front-end frameworks now, which would probably be React or Vue or AngularJS. Just all of those are kind of their own worlds in themselves, and that makes it really difficult to be a full-stack developer. So some people would probably make the argument, well, you could use Node on the back end, and you could do JavaScript both on the front end and back end. And yeah, I could see the argument. That's why a lot of companies want to do that, but still backend is kind of its own specialty. And I don't know, my opinion is, this is just my personal opinion, is that a framework like Ruby on Rails gives you a better set of tools for doing all the server-side things that you'd want to do. And I'm quite sure somebody who's a JavaScript developer who's really skilled at it would probably disagree with me. But in general, I'm talking about the difficulty of doing those multiple stacks. And it's not just the programming languages now. There's a whole other layer that goes with the particular framework as well. So if you say that you're a JavaScript developer, what does that mean? Are you just doing jQuery and doing vanilla JS? Or, what level of familiarity do you have with React or one of the other types of JavaScript frameworks. Each one of those has its own level of detail and things that takes a long time to build. So basically, I'm talking about why it's difficult. Why not become a polyglot developer? If you can master all of these different languages and frameworks, why not try to do it? Well, there's certain constraints that we have as human beings that makes that difficult. And one of them is that there just isn't enough hours in the day, because it takes a tremendous amount of time to learn all of the best practices in one language or another, or a particular framework. And the way you get good at it is by a lot of repetition. So some people like to quote that book. One of the Malcolm Gladwell books, where he put forth the idea that it takes 10,000 hours to get good at something. Well, now it's not just 10,000 hours at web development, but you got to put in your 10,000 hours on that particular framework too. So, where are you going to find the time to learn both Python and both JavaScript and maybe something else too? So I think that's why a lot of people end up with a given specialty, they identify as a particular framework developer, and it's difficult to say that you're a polyglot developer, because to build the level of practice that you need, it takes some time. And I'm not saying that some people can't be good at maybe two, but this is, I guess, kind of more geared towards some of the people in the field that are learning, or if you're kind of frustrated with yourself for not for not knowing everything. So a second factor that makes it difficult to really learn everything in web development is that nowadays these frameworks, they change so quickly with updates that what you're trying to learn is a moving target. So, Ruby on Rails, I did a video a little bit ago about how there was a major breaking update in Ruby 3. But along with that, it's difficult to keep up with Rails deprecations that occur over time. You look at Ruby on Rails version 2 or 3, there's a lot of differences between version 6 and version 7. And if you're away from it for a while and you're working on something else like Python, you go back to Rails, you're probably going to be really familiar with the Ruby code, but it will take you a little bit of time to get caught up and become aware of all of the little changes in the way that you do things that is different now. And then a third challenge that you have in trying to be a master at multiple languages is you just forget things. You're not going to remember everything. A long time ago, I used to be a programmer in Pascal, and then I did .NET programming in C#. But now, not only are those frameworks completely different from what they were 10 or 15 years ago, but I don't remember all of the functions and syntax in Pascal. If I ever try to go back to that, it would be like learning it over again. So you have the, in trying to learn everything, why that's an unreasonable expectation is that you have the constraint of time to get good at it. You have the constraint of the languages themselves evolving and changing over time, and then you just have your human constraint of if you don't use it, you lose it. So what is the next best thing to being a very versatile developer that knows a lot and could switch between multiple languages? I think when an employer is looking for somebody that they call a polyglot developer, they aren't really looking for somebody, or at least could reasonably expect to find somebody who knows everything right now, but somebody who's comfortable in switching languages, in learning those new things. So, for example, a lot of the generalized design patterns that you probably see in Python Django, because it's HTTP RESTful kind of system, a lot of those skills would probably translate over pretty well to Rails. So I think a lot of companies that want somebody comfortable in switching things are just looking at somebody who learns quickly and is experimental and can keep up with all of the new technologies that are coming about. So I think some of the ways that you could do that and try to master a high skill level include just kind of doing small projects in other things that you're familiar with, just so that you could get a taste of another programming language here or there. Do like a small project. Try out something like a blogging platform or something like that in another language that you're unfamiliar with. Maybe an experimental project that doesn't that isn't going to be a huge production thing, but something that's more like a hobby, something that if it doesn't work out the way that you want, or you can't put time into it, it's not a big deal. It's a learning experience. I think a second thing is kind of your mindset on how the industry is changing. So technology and web development and programming technology in general changes and evolves very rapidly over time. As years go by, you're going to make gradual shifts from one language to another. And I think what is a reasonable expectation is, if you see the industry changing, for example, you see a JavaScript framework that is becoming more prevalent and you take interest in it, you go ahead and start those projects in it, and then you gradually get better at it over time. And then before you know it, you might be switching from a specialty in one area to another. So like I said earlier, I used to make C# applications, but around that time I was interested in web development, so I put in a lot of extra hours outside of my day job, actually, trying to do this little startup project, and I chose Ruby on Rails to do that in. Well, the startup project, it was kind of it kind of stayed just a project, and it didn't really go anywhere as far as being a company, but I did learn a lot of Ruby on Rails at the time. So I guess you could say at that time I did have some experience in C# and less experience in Ruby on Rails, but then my career ended up shifting to do more Ruby on Rails development. Now, if I were to try to go back and write C# code, I would be quite lost, because it's been about 10 years and the .NET systems evolved quite a bit since then. There's a lot more new things that they add to the language I have to catch up on, and Rails is kind of my expertise. And kind of where I'm going in the future now, I guess maybe you could say that I'm trying to do more front-end type of stuff, do more JavaScript type of stuff. And that's one of the things that I think makes the Turbo Stimulus framework interesting, is that it kind of simplifies a lot of the JavaScript stuff, makes it easy to learn. Well, actually, it kind of sets a low bar for you to learn, because it's only sprinklings of JavaScript just to get the application going, where you don't have to learn all of the ins and outs of a whole framework that's as complicated as React. Because when you add some of the things like Redux to React, it could get fairly complex, and there are a lot of things to navigate there. But I think long term, this evolution of the industry and the need to stay on top of things and constantly learn and add new things to their tool belt is why programming is difficult for a lot of people. So not everybody could just learn to code. It takes a certain type of mindset and somebody who has a certain type of enthusiasm for the types of change that come. A lot of people who can't keep up with those changes, they kind of get tired of it, and they often move into more business-oriented roles such as management or product owner type of roles, or a scrum master. So if you get burned out doing that, there's other paths for you. But for me, I really like the change in the industry, and that's why I started this YouTube channel and why I'm trying to learn these new technologies along with you on my channel, by the way, such as Turbo, and playing around with these cool things as I find them. So I hope that was an interesting topic of discussion for you. Once again, if you like it, don't forget to hit the like button on this video and subscribe to my channel, and let me know what you think of this talk. If you want me to do more videos like this where I talk about a software engineering or web development topic. I guess this one was more so for kind of younger developers who are kind of overwhelmed with all of the things that that you have to learn and trying to find a path to follow. But I guess as somebody more experienced, I'm kind of telling you that that it's okay to set reasonable expectations for yourself. So I hope you got something good out of this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Well, I'm not really sure exactly what full stack would really. In doing this series, which I call the Stonks on Rails series, I'm actually trying to learn a new programming flame, just so that you could get a little bit taste of another programming language here or there.